Here we are again with our latest episode of the Redbird Rundown, our weekly video segment on the Illinois State men's basketball team. Hello, I'm Assistant Sports Editor Joe Deacon as your host, hoping you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. With me as always is veteran beat reporter Jim Benson. Hello, Jim.
How you doing, Joe?
Good to have you again. So last week, the Redbirds won their first two games in the Virgin Islands Paradise Jam, defeating Weber State and Old Dominion, before falling to Seton Hall in the championship. Jim, last week you told us that ISU should consider 2 wins a positive outcome in St. Thomas. However, that 4-point loss to the Pirates in the final kind of left a bitter taste as maybe a missed opportunity.
Yeah, they had played really well in the first 2 games against Weber State and Old Dominion. Their zone defense was really good in both games, especially the second game against Old Dominion. Against Seton Hall, they kind of looked a little lethargic. Took a while to get out on some of their shooters. So that was tough. It was the third game in 4 days, so maybe there's a little fatigue, especially early in the season, but you got to realize the other team was the same way too. So they got back on Tuesday night about midnight, and I would assume that the practices were very tough on Wednesday.
Yeah, because that Seton Hall game, they had a chance. I mean, they just didn't look quite themselves, it seemed like. But still, if there was a silver lining, they did climb back from a 21-point deficit and made it a game, led by a 23-point career high from Bobby Hunter. And as you said, they also did get some nice wins in the first 2 games. That defensive effort against Old Dominion was pretty strong.
Right. I mean, you're right. They could have thrown in a towel against Seton Hall and just kind of called it a day. They didn't. And it's not surprising that Bobby Hunter was the guy kind of to lead the charge. He is really a strong-willed, strong-minded individual. He had a career-high 23 points. He had 19 was his high last year. So, I mean, that was a positive sign. Like you said, the Old Dominion win was really a good win, but they just need to be a little more consistent, especially on a defensive, and that's where you need to be consistent from game to game. Your shots aren't going to go every game, but if you can, know your defense is going to be consistent every game, that gives you a chance to win every game.
Yeah, like you said, in the Seton Hall game, there was a Sterling Gibbs, had a 40-point effort. I mean, that's one guy they kind of should have known was going to be a hot hand, and they didn't defend him very well.
Exactly.
Well, probably one of the biggest things to come out of the trip, though, is the continued emergence of Devon Akun-Purcell. The junior transfer moved into the starting lineup, averaged more than 15 points a game in the tournament, and made the all-tournament team.
Yeah, junior college guys, it usually takes them a couple games to get their feet kind of on the ground. Devon has not. He has come out from the get-go, from the first exhibition game. He's really just made a great transition, offensively and defensively both. Offensively, he gives them a really great length on the perimeter. A guy who can shoot over the defense, but he can take the ball on the dribble to the basket. And defensively, especially when they play that zone, he gives them a lot of length. So I mean, it's really been fun watching him. He was the Valley Newcomer of the Week here last week, and I don't think it's going out on a limb to saying he's got a great chance to be the Valley Newcomer of the Year this season.
Yeah, he's definitely off to a good start. So the Redbirds returned to normal with a 2-2 record, heading into Saturday's 2 p.m. home game against Youngstown State. The Penguins started out this week at 3-3 before hosting Missouri-Kansas City on Wednesday night. Jim, what do you think ISU should expect to see from Youngstown?
Youngstown is a team, they were picked 8th in the Horizon League out of 9 teams, so the fellow coaches and the sports information directors and the beat writers don't think a lot of them, but they have a couple pretty good players. They have a post player, Bobby Hain is his name. He's 6'10", 240, and he's kind of like a double machine. So he'll give Reggie a good workout in the post and the other ISU post. And they have a guard named Marcus Keene. He had made 22 3-pointers coming into this season, and he already had 17 in their first 6 games. So they got a solid team, not a spectacular team. This is a game ISU needs to win by 15 points.
After the Penguins, the Redbirds will get back to Doug Collins Court pretty quickly as nationally ranked VCU comes in for a Tuesday night game. The Rams are currently number 14 in the AP poll, although they did get shellacked by Villanova in the Legends Classic. They bounced back to beat Oregon. VCU plays Old Dominion before coming here, but Shaka Smart's team could be a tough challenge for the Redbirds.
Yeah, they're known for what they call their havoc defense, and that's all capital letters for emphasis. And ISU got a taste of it last year in the opener last year where they lost 96-58.
Yeah.
They were down 44 points in the second half. I was there. It was a beatdown, and I'm sure Dan Muller's going to be showing the Redbirds a tape of that. What their defense is, they pressure the whole court, but they get as many turnovers in the half court as they do on their full court pressure. They just deny passing lanes, and they get a lot of deflections. They have a guard by the name of Briante Weber. Really, if you like defense, you'll love watching this guy. He's on pace to set the NCAA all-time steals record. He had 9 steals in his first game this season. he is just a defensive havoc. He fits the bill. He's a 6'2" guard, has long arms, just a very good defender. So it'll be fun watching them. And another familiar face on their bench will be David Kaysen. He's a former Redbird player. He was a teammate of Dan Muller's. He graduated in '96, so a couple years before Dan graduated. And he also was an assistant coach at Vanderbilt when Dan's last year at Vanderbilt when they won the SEC tournament. So David Kaysen is coming back to Redbird Arena.
So a bit of a Redbird connection.
Yes,
there.
exactly.
So they're definitely going to need to make sure they're trying to do their best to stay tight with the possessions. And
Oh,
not
yeah.
protect the basket.
Handling the ball is going to be the key thing. If they can handle the ball and limit their turnovers to, let's say, VCU is going to turn you over. If you can limit them to about 14 or 15, ISU would have a decent chance of winning. VCU doesn't have a lot of size this year like they had last year. They had a couple of good, real strong post players. They don't quite have that this year. They got a lot of thick guys, 6'6", 6'5", thick guys.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, ISU just has to handle the ball and really limit their turnovers. And what ISU didn't do last year, transition defense was horrible. VCU is going to turn you over. You got to get back on the other end of the court and not give them a lot of layups and dunks.
Mm-hmm. Now don't forget, Jim will conduct online chats before each of these games here on Pantagraph.com. And along those lines, I'd like to invite you viewers to participate in this series. If you'd have a question you'd like answered or a topic for us to discuss here on the show, email me at jdeacon@pantagraph.com with Redbird Rundown in the subject line, and be sure to include your first name and hometown. And in future episodes, we'll answer one or two of these emails each week.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. Get some viewer input and all that. Everybody's got a lot of questions, but you should come out and see this team, especially on Saturday at Redbird Arena. Obviously, a lot of good seats because the students aren't going to be there, so it'll be a good chance to see the Redbirds play.
Yeah, and remember always to buy a copy of the Daily Pantagraph or check back here on the website for Jim's coverage of the Redbirds. And also, you can follow Jim on Twitter. Jim, why don't you give out that address again?
It's capital P, small g, _Benson, BENSON, capital B.
And if you really want, you can follow me on Twitter too. That's capital P, lowercase g, _DEACON. Hoping to increase my followers here a bit. So anyway, that's going to do it for this show. Be sure to join us next week when we review the Youngstown and VCU games and look ahead to the Redbirds road contest at UAB. Thanks for watching.